The following program is brought to you by the University of Alabama.
Kerry Madden is a successful professional writer of books for young adults, fiction and nonfiction. She has a series of novels set in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, and is also recently the author of a biography of Harper Lee for young readers. I spoke with Kerry Madden at the annual literary conference On the Brink, held at Jacksonville State University. Kerry, it's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Well, now you're how many years have you been at UAB now?
This is my second year.
Second year. How are you liking it? How's it going?
It's going great. I mean, I have wonderful students, and I'm editing PMS, poem memoir story.
Yes.
And it's been an adventure. I mean, the first year I came on my own, and this year my daughter just started 6th grade at Homewood Middle School, and that's been really fun to have her with me. And so, but the faculty has been just so welcoming, and the students have been great.
And are you teaching creative writing?
I teach creative writing. I teach children's writing from picture book to young adult. I teach creative nonfiction and the memoir, and I teach fiction, a fiction workshop. So those are all the classes I've taught so far.
Well, you are an amazingly productive writer.
Thank you.
You have 7 books?
I have 6 books.
6 books.
Yeah.
And they come right along. You're not all blocked up.
Well.
But a lot of what you've done has been young adult fiction. Mm-hmm. And before we even talk about the individual books, this is a field. When I was a graduate student, even 20 years ago, nobody talked about it. It must have existed, but nobody cared.
Right.
Now it is a vibrant, lucrative field for literature.
It really is.
What is it? Seriously. Now, there are people watching right this minute, and they're saying, well, young adult, what does it mean? Who are they? What do you do for them?
Right. Well, it's so funny when my first novel, Offsides, it was published in '96, and my editor at the time told me, if you publish this book young adult, because it's the narrator 17, he said, if you publish this young adult, it will be the death knell of your career. You must publish it as literary fiction.
Yes.
Because people had said, would you, and so I said, well, of course, then I don't want that. And then it turns out, all these years later, people have said, why in the world wasn't that published young adult? Because it is I didn't realize, there's like middle grade, which is there's like picture book, early reader, middle grade, young adult. And middle grade is sort of my genre, which is like ages 9 to 12. Those are my Maggie Valley novels. But then the Harper Lee book is more young adult. It is, I think Judy Blume was sort of I guess, I don't know if you call her a precursor, but it started with Judy Blume. It started with
as in racy young adult.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so that was those were some of the books that I read as a kid, and then, but it really it's been in the last. I think when Harry Potter came out, those books, that changed, and people began to see that this is that young adult was such a vibrant market. And
all right, let me ask you 2 quick little questions.
Mm-hmm.
How old are the characters in a young adult, and how old are the readers of a young adult?
The characters in a young adult, it's usually 12 and up, and kids read up, and so the characters, the readers are 12 and up, 12, 13 and up. And then but the characters can be anywhere from 13 to 17 usually, and then the middle grade is more like 9. Right.
But once a character graduates from high school, he's done.
He's pretty. You don't usually have a 19-year-old in young adult. You don't. It really is that the high school. I know that's not exactly set in stone.
Speaking
but that's
generally,
pretty much, yeah.
And why is it male or female? Or is that irrelevant?
Well,
The readers, the subject, the characters, either way.
it's both. Though they say that it's better, girls will read books with boys on the cover and girls on the cover. Boys will only read books with boys on the cover. So, who knew? I mean, so they're just very, and that, so they're very aware of that when they create covers. I mean, I've learned that just because my books, they're more,
They have girls
on the cover. So there's once boys, if they can be convinced to open the book, then they enjoy it, because it's not a girly book, but it's, the covers, they think, oh, girl.
So if the reader is 13, the characters are going to be 15.
They
that
could
kind
be,
of thing.
Yeah, they could be 14, 15, 16. Yeah, they're usually, some, yeah, but I would say that's about right.
Does this involve necessarily a lot of hands-on selling, going to schools, talking to teachers, talking to students? Is that part of the game?
It is the game. It really, and I actually love it, because I had a fourth grade teacher who said, you're a good writer. And before that, teachers had said, aren't you a nice tall girl, and don't you listen well? And so when she told me that, it was a gift. And so I go into schools. I mean, the hard thing for me when I published my first novel was going into bookstores and reading to the clerks, or, at one point over the loudspeaker to drum up interest.
I read your online piece
right.
about how to survive
yes.
promoting your first novel.
Yeah.
It's
that was
so scary to be in a big bookstore all by yourself.
It was just, you're sitting behind these stacks of books, and the clerk is like, maybe you ought to just try, that'll drum up some business, go read on the loudspeaker. So, I mean, I don't ever want to do that again. So going into a school and encouraging kids to write and discover their voice. I call them story catchers. I tell them to be story catchers and storytellers, and I encourage them to write. And so we do it's a very messy writing workshop. And so that is part of being a young adult author. You go in and you meet the kids, and
I would imagine your publisher loves that.
They really do.
Get out and work it.
They really do. They in fact, I think that helped me when they saw how hard I was willing to work for General's Holler. I think that led to Louisiana's song in Jessie's Mountain, because my agent at the time had said, write down everything you've done and send it to them, and I did. And one said, I need to take a nap after reading that, because I wanted to. My first novel went out of print, so I was going to give this one a fighting chance, the series.
Right.
So.
Well, your first novel is a high school football book.
Yeah.
Which you were ideally suited to write because...
I am the daughter of a football coach. So
so where did you live? Where did you grow up?
My father coached, he started in high school in Florida, and then he was a graduate assistant at Mississippi State, and then Moorhead. He coached at Wake Forest, Brian Piccolo's senior year, so he was a Demon Deacon, and then Iowa State Cyclones, Kansas State Wildcats, Pittsburgh Panthers, Tennessee Volunteers. I mean, we would go, and then he went into the pros, so he was Atlanta Falcons, Detroit Lions, and San Diego Chargers. But we sort of grew up being, okay, kids, now you're a Wildcat, now okay, get ready, you're a Panther. And so we and our decor in our home would change with each team. Like we'd get the, blue and gold or orange and white or purple and white, whatever.
And your father's not John Madden.
No, I had to write an essay called I Am Not John Madden's
That's
Daughter,
right.
because so many people were thinking, we're so excited to meet John Madden's daughter. And
Well,
I'm
look
not.
at here's your name. Your name is Madden. Your father was a football coach.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
They just put it together. And
Well, it's one of the only coaches' names they might know.
Exactly.
And you were acquainted with Inman Majors at Knoxville?
Well, we actually, because my father coached with Johnny Majors through 3 football teams, I met Inman when he would visit in Iowa and Pittsburgh. And then when we moved to Knoxville, he and my brother Duffy became really great friends. And so I've known Inman, for a really long time.
So you have.
Yeah.
What's the nature of Offsides?
Well, it's
What's
kind
the
of,
point there?
People said it's kind of like a Great Santini from the girls' point of view. And I think my father I think he kind of shaped me as a writer, because he would say, I didn't like moving. I didn't like uprooting.
Must have been hard.
It was really hard, and I would say, I don't want to leave my friends, and he would say, there's no discussion, get in the car. We're not, he didn't like any high drama. He wanted things were his way, and so what he would say is, you won't even remember these people. Say goodbye. And so, out of pure defiance, I would say, I will remember. I'm not going to forget. And then my mother would always, my mother was the perfect coach's wife. They've been married 50 years, and so that she would say, it's going to be great. You adjust to anything you've got. It's going to be wonderful. And I would say, it's that cheerleader mentality.
You're developing skills.
It really, I was.
Which would be very useful should you become a Bedouin.
That's true.
No.
So, yeah, but I think each town, I would sort of mimic the act. For a while, I wouldn't go out of my room for the first 3 months, and then I would, write letters and try to hang on to the people I'd left, and then I would, you get bored with staying in your room, so I would go out and I would the different accents. I went from Yin's guys to y'all, and so
I could not have imagined an hour ago my saying this out loud, but your life was something like Pat Conroy's life.
It was.
He writes about that movement in the Marine Archipelago.
Right. Well, I've just recently met Pat Conroy, and he is just. Talk about a generous.
Absolutely.
He's just like, he bought. We're all like, pretty unknown authors, and he bought everybody's book. Sign him, get it.
Yes.
There's a generosity to him. And I had seen The Great Santini, and I've since read it, but people said that when they read Offsides, it was like that, because it was the girl's story.
Yeah, his father, I'm betting, was a lot meaner than
my
your
dad
father.
Was I never had to go. My dad was, he was tough, but it wasn't anything.
No.
Yeah.
Pat's new book, My Reading Life, is splendid. Have you read it?
I love it. I love
do
it.
too.
I love it. I think it's hilarious. We were at Jefferson, Texas at Kathy Patrick's, the Beauty in the Book Girlfriends Weekend, and so that's where I got it.
I think the section in Paris just had me in tears. I was laughing so hard I couldn't stand it.
Right.
Just wonderful. But this is not about Pat Conroy. You have the Maggie Valley books.
Yes.
Which this young songwriter, guitar player, and she goes to Nashville, and her guitar is stolen, and it's just also so.
Yeah.
What is it? What's the trick here is develop a heroine somebody likes and then do terrible things to her.
Right. Well, I think of that Charles Baxter, get your character up a tree and throw rocks at him. That's what he would.
Why Maggie Valley? What's special about that?
Well, when I was working on Offsides, we took a trip to the mountains. I had lived in Tennessee, and so we were actually living in LA, and we drove back, and my daughter who's now 20, she was 3, and she had a temper tantrum on Thomas Wolfe's front porch. I thought, let's take the kids to see Thomas Wolfe's house, which is a horrible idea to take a 3 and 5-year-old. So it was just bad, and so I looked at a map, and I said, let's take. My husband were like, we got to get out of here. This is driving everybody crazy. So we took we looked at a map of North Carolina, and we saw Highway 19 in this little town called Maggie Valley. And I said, let's go there. It sounds beautiful. It's going to be, we'll take the kids.
It is.
There's Ghost Town. And then we discovered the Pancake House. And so we took this trip, and then years and years later, when I was thinking that I should write young adult, I thought, I'm going to set my books in that town. And then my husband grew up one of 13 children, and his mother had babies in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so I always wondered,
unbelievable, how
in the world? And his father was a fiddle player for the Grand Ole Opry. His great uncle Bascom Lamar Lunsford was a song catcher, and these stories that when we first started dating, I asked him, how many brothers and sisters, and when he said 13, I thought, if I marry this guy, I'm never going to run out of stories. And so that was true. And I just
you'll be shopping for Christmas presents for 6 months 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, it's impossible.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 3. I've got 2 brothers. I'm the oldest of 4.
So you know a thing or two about family.
I
you don't
do.
need to take all of the inspiration.
No. And I growing up, since I read so much as a kid, whatever I was reading, whether it was Oliver Twist or I mean, I was making bowls of gruel, I was acting out the books I was reading, making them, perform.
Well, you've written a book also for children on
Yes.
how to become a writer.
Yes, it's called Writing Smarts.
Writing smart. And,
Yeah.
And what's different about instructing children? What do children need to be told that any 25-year-old group of men and women wouldn't be told?
Well, I think in that book, I really loved writing that. It was, I tell boys to ignore the pink because it's American Girl and they do it up really pink. But I tried to think of things that have helped me as a writer. And there's an exercise called Draw Your Heart. And so when I go in to do a workshop, I'll have the kids draw their hearts. And they write down like what gets them scared, what makes them really angry.
How old are they?
They're like 8 to 12.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's that age. And so I get them thinking about, all the different ways that they can, and then I say, okay, now draw your characters. What makes your character really excited or really scared? And so then they just go with it. And so I think it's like little tricks and ways to, it makes writing fun. It helps it belongs to them, not like, you will write your essay now. I really like to, like one boy in Maggie Valley, he came up to me and he goes, "Lady, I am not a writer." And I said, "Well, what do you like to do?" And he goes, "Fish." And I said, "Well, my character's fish. I would love you to write about fishing, and I don't know much about it." And he goes, "I can write about that." I said, "You can write about what you love, what you care about.
Right.
That's what I want you to write about." So that's what I tried to do with that book.
Probably a little harder to get boys to do it.
It is, because he goes, "My teacher made me come." And I said, I felt bad for him. So I wanted him to see, we weren't going to, now you will pick up your pencils and, compose your story. So.
Well, boys just hate the writing assignment. Most boys. I didn't, but that figures.
Right.
I was in Monroeville several years ago, and I was actually in the courthouse talking with some people at the museum bookstore there.
Yeah.
And they said, there was this woman in town. Of course, it was you.
Was it?
Yes, and you had been there. You had been visiting. You had been talking to people.
Right.
Trying to get people to talk about Harper Lee as you were working on that young adult biography.
Right.
Is that
yes, that's right.
All right. How did it go? Most people who go around Monroeville looking for interviews don't have much luck.
I don't know how it happened, but I was very, very lucky. I guess I wrote to Harper Lee first because I knew that I knew she wasn't happy about the Charles Shields book, and so I wanted to tread as carefully and as respectfully as possible. And she wrote me back, actually I had John Grammer from the University of the South in Sewanee write to her because she'd gotten an honorary degree from Sewanee. And so he wrote on my behalf, and she wrote him and said that she didn't believe in, to relay to me, she didn't believe in biographies for those still living, and she, I may be old, but I'm still breathing. And, however, and she said, I can't remember what else, but she said a few more things about, just claiming her own life. But then at the end of the letter, she said, I tell her I wish her the best whether she pursues it or not. And so I took that little note, that little, bit of, because if she had said, don't do it, I don't think I could have done it. I think it would have been, I don't think I would have, it would have felt wrong if she had said absolutely not. So I thought if I could just, and since it's for kids, I wanted to capture of how a little girl grows up to write her own stories. And so I thought if I go to Monroeville, I didn't want to sit in LA, Googling it. And so I thought, so once I had that letter from her, then I began to, I contacted Wayne Greenhaw.
Right.
And then I contacted Angela Roberts. And I met them at the Alabama Book Festival. And then Angela said, you got to go to the Methodist Church. So I went to the Methodist Church, and that's where I met Reverend Butts. And I met Mrs. Butts, and she said, well, are you Methodist? And so I was like, no, and we explained, I can be. Yeah, I felt so, it was crazy. So, but she was so wonderful. And she goes, well, you have to talk to, George Thomas Jones, you have to talk to A.B. Blass. And so but
did they talk to you?
Yeah, they did.
But they're not going to say anything to you that they hadn't said in the past to somebody else.
Right, right. No, well, I mean, I talked to No, I mean, I did see Miss Alice. I did meet her, and but I didn't interview her. She wouldn't do the interview,
Right.
but she was so gracious, and I was able to give her my books, and she was just so gracious, and Jane Ellen Clark, who was the curator at the museum, she said, "You come on, I don't have time, but come on," and then we ended up talking for 3 hours. So. That and then Jennings Carter, I was able to interview him and talk to him.
He will speak.
He will speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, again, just as this is not about Pat Conroy, it's also not about Carl Shields.
Yeah.
But what? Not at great length, but I read his book, and yours.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah.
And I didn't find anything in his book that, had I been Harper Lee, I would have been offended. I just didn't think that it was offensive. And if there had been things in there that had been offensive, would you have left them out for young adults? I mean, how do you do? Biography is different from fiction, because fiction you control.
Yes.
And if you want this character to be a drooling pervert, you make him a drooling pervert, but you don't have to.
Right.
But with biography, you're obliged. But I didn't see anything in Shields' book that should, in my opinion, have offended Miss Lee.
Right.
Did you think you were leaving something out?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't see. George Thomas Jones is like, well, he called a freshwater fish a saltwater fish. He got Highway 81. It's Highway 84. I didn't find it. I didn't find it.
Yeah,
no.
I was very curious about the whole flap.
Yeah.
There were a couple of biographies of Eudora Welty, for example. One of them I thought was stupid and cruel.
Yeah, I don't know which. I'm thinking
speculative. It was, Eudora Welty may very well have done such and such.
Right.
Well, that's no way. But I don't. You and Shields both, I thought, were very respectful.
Yeah. I'm glad.
What's the trick in a young adult or a young reader biography? Do you have to sweeten it? Do you have to?
Well, they wanted
it up?
They wanted it to read. This was interesting. They wanted it to read like fiction. They wanted it to be.
Oh.
They want it, and so what I almost got in trouble because I had in my mind, they want it's for kids. I can.
Right.
And when I interviewed Jennings, he was describing how they would get these big pieces of stove wood. He and Nell and Truman, and Truman always had to be the school teacher so he could crack them with a big stick if they got the wrong answer. And so I had written this whole scene, and Elizabeth Partridge, who's a wonderful YA biographer, she's done Woody Guthrie and Dorothea Lange and John Lennon, she looked at that scene because I was at a retreat with her, a writer's workshop retreat, and she goes, "Did this happen?" And I said, "Well, Jennings told me how they would play school in the backyard, and Cousin Sook would get the brown mule," and she's like, "But did they say these things?" And I said, "Oh no, I don't know." But she was like, "It can't. You can't put that in there. You cannot. You can't make up dialogue. You can't. This is a biography." So that was like a laser for me. And so I took out everything and I described the setting and the scene as Jennings Carter told me, but I let go of all.
So it's to read like fiction, sort of.
Sort of, exactly.
But you have to stop short of imagining.
Of imagining or putting dialogue into their mouths that they didn't say.
What about actual language? Not the Harper Lee, but the whole world of young adult and middle school kind of children. The lexicon, what do you do? Are there words that you look at it and you think, no, this you do not put in panoply or whatever the word is?
Well, I think you can put in anything. There's a wonderful young adult book, Northern Exposure, and each chapter begins with a really difficult word with it, and that because the girl loves words so much. And I think Livy too, the bookmobile is her lifeline to the world. So I watch profanity because I did have one woman say to me, did the publisher make you put those swear words in your book? Because I was
Damn,
like,
hell?
yeah, exactly. And I said, no. Did you find some? I couldn't even think what she was talking. And she goes, well, yeah. I found 2 so far. And so she was counting. So it made me really aware. It just made me aware that you have to be. It just made me. I didn't even think about it because it was just I was thinking of how the characters would speak. So I don't. But I don't try to. You don't write down to kids. You write how people. And I also had my friend Ernestine Upchurch. She's from Maggie. She's sort of a matriarch of Maggie Valley, who dated Popcorn Sutton, who was the moonshiner of Maggie. And Ernestine gave me a DVD called Mountain Talk, and that was a wonderful. I could like words like "sagoglin." That's right, sagoglin, or that's and just words I had no idea. So I looked at Mountain Talk to get just some of the authentic, especially by the time I was writing Jessie's Mountain. When I got to spend time, and I stayed in her cabin, and really I needed to be there. And,
Will there be more Maggie Valley books?
There may be. I'm working, right now there's not, but I mean, down the road there may be.
Well, you're a hard-working writer. I know that. So I would not be a bit surprised.
Thanks.
Okay, this has been a pleasure.
Oh,
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.